I finally figured out nobody goes through life unscathed. I was just thinking of something the other day. I used to teach French, and I was in Brittany a couple summers. And Brittany's that's like a point of land that goes out into the Atlantic. And there was this, on the tip of land, there was a lot of shipwrecks out there because of the storms. And I got to say it in French because it's kind of fun. There's a proverb that goes with this particular point of land. It goes, "Personne ne passe, ni sans peine, ni sans douleur." Nobody passes without pain or suffering. And it's kind of like life itself. And so I got home, and the house is kind of quiet. And I said, I should still be out for a walk. So it was more and more quiet. I went downstairs to fix up some of my gear, and it was just sort of strange. So I opened the door to the bathroom. There she was in a tub, half full of water, no clothes on, with a knife in her chest. And I just went crazy. I just went berserk. And I closed the door right away. I said, I didn't see that now. No. I opened it again. Sure enough, oh my God. I really lost it. There's no notes. And every time we saw that psychiatrist, he would say, "Are you? Have you thought of harming yourself or taking your life?" "Oh no," she said. And she was always kind of secretive about some things.
It was awful, but I'm not, it was the culmination of 5 difficult years both for John and for the adults who loved him. And even after his taking those pills 2 months earlier, I never dreamed that he would complete suicide. You just don't get it unless you feel that deep pain that someone ends with suicide. And so it was a surprise, yes, but it wasn't the kind of surprise where I would scream and throw things. I sank down on a chair and probably said, "Oh no," and didn't say much of anything.
Thing left over from religious taboos, old. I don't know. But it's been covered up. I found out that my ex-husband's not father, but I'm trying to think, relative. They always, it was always just said, well, they were in a car accident, or they, this or that, and no one said that's what happened. Well, I can't imagine that all of those poor women that lived out in the eastern Montana during the homesteading days didn't have some issues there. but you still don't see it very often in the paper, and we didn't put it in with my son.
Every survivor of suicide loss feels guilty. You know it's not rational, but you always ask yourself, why didn't I do this? If only I'd done this. Why did I say that? Why did we take the tough love approach at some point? That's universal. And even when you know it's not rational, and you've done so much, and you've had the resources, and you've got the resources to the loved one, you still feel guilt. And you know you shouldn't, but you replay things in your head all the time.
We talk about, specifics of our own families and situations and that kind of thing, but it all stays in the group. So I wouldn't be talking about who I was talking to last night, or because it's a small town, even if it's 100,000 people, and sometimes people don't, because of the stigma of suicide. A lot of times people don't know that someone's loved one has died of suicide. It's not written up in the paper that way. It's not.
But so part of the trauma, and I would call it PTSD, for a long time when we drive around, I would avoid certain places in town. I would avoid Senior High because that had bad memories. I would avoid a couple of streets. I avoided the little motel that we had got him a room at when he wouldn't, as part of our supporting, but you can't be at home when he wouldn't go back to school. I would avoid those kinds of places. It's all better, but some of those places I still avert my eyes.
Loved animals and children, and he's just a friendly guy, you know.
I ran across a book where a scholar, she analyzed the lament, which is a Jewish kind of prayer, and the first thing you do in the lament is grief, and then you get angry with God, angry with the fates, and then there's a pain of about 5 different steps until there's reconciliation. And all the laments, they're called in the Book of Lamentations, have this structure. It's an ancient form, but it's just very true.
I know some people that have lost family members to suicide, and they just don't talk about it. And I think it makes other people uncomfortable to do that, you know. And it even, we talked about it even last night at this meeting. One woman was saying how even her co-workers, she'd lost a loved one, her co-workers don't say anything to her about it. And yet she said, when my brother-in-law died of cancer, everyone was feeling really sorry for me. And I said, it makes people uncomfortable. It's, you know, first of all, they know it's going to make you cry. And you know, if somebody dies of cancer, you've probably grieved a lot before that happened. This is a sudden kind of a thing. And it happened to me. I was in Albertsons, maybe 3 or 4 months after Gino died, and a woman came up and said, whose daughter had gone to school with him, and said, I just feel so sad, and I started to cry, and Mike came over and said, and she felt terrible, and he said, no, thank you for saying something. It really means a lot that you say something, even though it makes you feel bad, you know, temporarily. It makes you feel good that they honored that person's life, you know, they cared. So, yeah, stuff.
There was no support group then. There was no, what do you call it? Support group, yeah. And I was kind of angry at the city for not having one. There were support groups in bigger cities, but not here. I did find 3 or 4 people, and we got together. They were all survivors. And one guy was flying back from the Twin Cities to Billings on the plane. I sat next to a guy, and we sort of hit it off, and we began talking, and he'd had a girlfriend, not a wife, but that she had taken her life. And so we bonded immediately. We got together every week. And then I met another woman whose brother had shot himself, and then another woman whose husband was a physician. And so there were 4 of us. We'd get together once every week or so, pump each other up.
The survivors group is, we talk about, you know, specifics and of our own families and situations and that kind of thing, but it all stays in the group. So I wouldn't be talking about who I was talking to last night, or because it's a small town, even if it's 100,000 people, and sometimes people don't, because of the stigma of suicide. A lot of times people don't know that someone's loved one has died of suicide. It's not written up in the paper that way. It's not put out that way. But I've become a real believer in bringing it out of the darkness, and it affects so many people in so many ways that keeping it a secret just isn't helping anyone.
It does get better. Yeah, it does get better. I think one of the first moments of sanity was I was sitting in Pioneer Park with my son. It was a beautiful spring day, and we were just sitting there on a picnic bench, not talking much. I looked down the street. There was a guy, a grandfather, and a little girl. She must have been 2, 3, 4 years old, and he was walking down the street. It was so funny. It's like a little touch of reality. Then life was going on. There's a guy and his grandfather, or his granddaughter. His life goes on. They had no knowledge of what I'd been through, but I just looked at them and I thought, this is good.